If you've been trying to learn French, but you're not getting the results you need, then this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through the 4-step plan that I'm currently helping my 7 students work through in order to achieve their French goals. And it also happens to be the exact one that I used back in 2020, June 2020 to be precise, when I learned French for the first time. So let's get right into it. Salut, je suis Rory. Si vous ne me connaissez pas, je suis ici sur YouTube et Instagram pour aider des gens à apprendre le français. J'espère que ces vidéos sont utiles pour vous. All right, let's go. Let's not waste any time. I'm going to share screen. We're doing this live. No pauses. Let's go right there. Perfect. So here's the plan. 4 steps, very simple. Now, this is the guideline and basically the flow through, the roadmap that I used to learn French when I first did it in 2020. I started when COVID arrived, essentially, and I was locked down at home and I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, oh, learning French would be cool. And so, 4 years later now, I'm helping 7 students learn French and they're using these 4 steps. Now, this is really, these 4 steps, plus or minus a few things, because every single person is going to have their own particular ways of learning, their own particular things that they like doing more than others. So that's going to mean that this method, it's not fixed, it's not in concrete. And for each of them, one-on-one, I work with them to make sure that, okay, yes, step 3 is good, but is there something else we can do when you're not liking something that you're doing there, right? And it's really throughout them working with them every single week, it's working out something that they can deal with and that's actually going to get them the progress they want, because they also have different goals, right? Some people just want to learn for fun. Some people want to go and work in Canada or work in France. So it's different objective as well. And keeping in mind here, okay, so we're starting at beginner level. We move all the way through to intermediate level within 3 to 6 months. Now, that's depending on multiple factors. Main one is time, right? Like how much time do you want to spend daily on French? If you want to spend 30 minutes versus 60 minutes, that's going to change how fast you can move. And then all the way down here to advanced fluent level, that's 12 to 18 months. So once again, time's a big factor. Also, what we define as fluent, that's another thing. So, fluent for one person might be very different fluent for another person. For example, do you want to just make basic conversation in French? Or do you want to be able to, speak like a native? That's very different. Or do you want to be able to use French for work or just to talk with friends and family? You might have family in France. You might just want to be able to listen to podcasts in French or watch videos or read books in French. So it's all going to depend on that. So let's get started. First step. So Assimil French with Ease. Now, this textbook here, it's terrific. It's the exact one that I used. It's the core resource you use to get from beginner to intermediate reading and listening level. There's about 113 chapters. So there's 113 in the edition that I've got. Some of the newer books, I think, have around 100 chapters. And it's basically story and conversation for each of the chapters. And you've basically got throughout the whole book, you've got the French sentences and you've got the English translation throughout the entire book. So you've got line by line translation, gives you really good support where, if you're trying to learn French from beginner level, well, you don't know that many words and you're already fluent in English. So why wouldn't you leverage the English knowledge you have and really use it as much as you can in order to understand the French? I don't see why you would just learn French without using the English best you can. Also, if you've got a resource where there's no English translation, there's a lot of time you've got to spend looking up words, highlighting, copying, pasting into translation tools like Google Translate, or the one that I like called Reverso. And it's just a waste of time. So if you have it all there for you, it's way easier. Keeping in mind as well, as you're reading through each of the French chapters and stories, you should be listening to the French audio. I don't see why not, once again, because if you need to get good at reading and listening, well, let's do it at the same time. That means you've got 2 times the input of French. If you're learning for 30 minutes a day, now it's 60 because you're doing 30 reading and 30 listening. If you're learning for 20, now it's 40. It's double the input. And there we're always looking to use the English translation, because why wouldn't we? It's a good, you can say it's a good method of cheating, because you're simply leveraging the knowledge you've got in English and you're using it to understand the French best you can. Now, of course, there's no direct translations between French and English. That doesn't really exist because each word means its own little thing in French versus in English. And that's fine, because if you already knew all of the French meanings, you would already be fluent, right? There's going to be differences, of course. And so we're using that. I'll show you the book here. So I showed in my previous video as well, where I showed the learning plan I built out for one of my students. He was wanting to work in Canada. So we've got here, this is what a lesson looks like. Let me show you one that's a bit more clean, where it starts fully on one page. Let's see, one moment. Because you're seeing here, yeah, let's go. Perfect. Yep, so this is an example lesson. So we're saying, que fait Monsieur Duclos le matin? What does Mr. Duclos do in the morning? And then we're going through, and you've got audio for all of the French throughout the book. You've got exercises as well that add in, and you've got audio. So every single time you're reading the French, you're listening as well, and you're building up your listening skill and you're reading at the exact same time. Lots of my students are very busy. You may be very busy. You got kids, right? You got a partner, you've got work full time, you want to do some other stuff, hobbies, etc. You don't have that much time. You can't be spending, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day learning French. You want to be able to get it done as soon as possible and get that progress for a set amount of time each day. That's where you can do 10 minutes a day, you can do 20 minutes a day, you can do 40, 60 minutes a day. And that's where with this book, you complete one of the lessons. It takes around 20 minutes. So you can do 2 in 40 minutes. One of my guys, he just recently joined on. He's very busy professional, works in law. And for him, he can't, do 2 lessons a day every single day. And so that's where I was just saying to him this weekend, like, don't stress too much about that. On certain days, you're not going to be able to do 40 minutes. Okay, just do 20. All right. If you can just do 1 lesson a day, that's good. And we can continue to keep you moving. I don't want you to feel bad if you can only do 1 a day. 20 minutes is still good. You're doing good here where you're getting the French input, you're getting the reading and listening within this 20 minutes. You're getting the English translation as well. Okay, you're activating that side of the brain and understanding what's happening on the French side. And you're moving through and you're listening to engaging stories and conversations. For him, he's got a young family, so he can't do 40 minutes a day fixed because he's got the kids, he's got the wife, he's got work that's very busy and demanding. He's tired when he comes home. He'd be working in the evening on the French. That's okay. And so it's really doing best you can with the schedule you've got. So that's Assimil there. That's the first thing. Okay, that is the base thing, the base resource, which is going to get you from today to in 3 to 6 months, intermediate reading and listening level. And we've got here, secondly, any other French resources that can support the Assimil book there. Because it's a textbook, I completely understand that for me at least, when I was learning French, sometimes I wouldn't want a textbook. I want something else. Well, no dramas, If you can find a podcast, which is at a base, easy level, perfect. We can just do the listening. If you find French cartoons or short stories, even very simple videos you can use, perfect. Goal here is just to immerse yourself in the French. So in order to go from beginner to intermediate, which is the hardest stage, okay, because once you're at intermediate, getting to advanced isn't as difficult, but there we've got to deal with speaking. So it does even itself out there because you'd be starting speaking there, which we'll get onto in a moment. And that is a difficult part. But in order to get your reading and listening from beginner to intermediate, overall, you really want to be focusing on daily study. Okay, that's the most important thing. If you're not doing things daily, it's going to be very difficult to keep moving because you want to keep the snowball effect going, all right? You need to be building up a snowball big enough that it can roll down the hill by itself. If you're just putting in, say, little bits of effort, maybe once every 2 days or 3, 4 times a week, it's not going to be good enough. It's going to be very difficult for you to progress. And so for that, that's where if you've got, maybe 30, 40 minutes a day to learn French, upwards to 60 on some days, maybe just the weekends, well, you can do 1 lesson of the Assimil, 20 minutes, and then you could spend the extra 10, 20, 30 minutes, and you could do a French podcast, which is easy. You could do a French short story, which is at a manageable level. Keeping in mind that if the resources you're using in this section here, okay, for all these beginner resources, if they're not understandable, it's going to be very difficult to keep the motivation up and to really feel like you're progressing. Because I tell my students, it's like, if you're doing the things daily in French, but you're not understanding 60, 70, 80% of what you're doing, with the French sentences, with the French audio, you're just going to feel like you're coasting by and you're not getting that tangible knowledge in every single day. So that's where finding the things which are understandable and which are at the perfect level to keep you moving and keep you motivated and keep you on track is very key. So there's certain YouTube channels you can use, there's certain podcasts you can find, whether you've got an iPhone like me, right here. You can go onto Apple Podcasts, whether you like Spotify. There's other apps you can download, and there's other ways you can always bring in certain resources to absolutely best suit. Okay, one of my students, he likes to put it on passively. So as he's cleaning around the house, vacuuming, going for a walk with the dog or just by himself, he can put in some podcasts and just listen to it passively. That's perfect. So we're really looking to bring in here as a second step, any other French resource to best complement the Assimil book, because the Assimil book, it is terrific. But if we can bring in some extra things just to mix it up and keep things fresh as well, I'm not a textbook, say, geek. I don't love just doing a book. I want something that's live. That's why Assimil is good for me, because it brings in the audios. Every single time I'm reading, I'm listening as well. It's bringing some life and some real, you can say some real French to what I'm learning. And that's where these other French resources can also do that and complement. So we're moving through, keeping in mind these two steps. That'll get you to a reading and listening level in 3 to 6 months of intermediate. Okay, now that's if you're doing the right things. Now, you can go out and you can buy by yourself, the French with These book. One of my more recent students, he's from the West Coast of the US, and he went out and he bought the Assimil book, and he was trying it out and he was doing okay with it. But he was struggling seeing the progress, keeping the motivation up, knowing exactly what to do every day. And that's where afterwards, then he decided to hop on with me and team up after having used the book for a month or so. You can go and buy that book online. I think prices maybe for me, like Australian dollars is like 130, I think, 140. And in euros, I think it's around like 80 euros. Keeping in mind, you want to get the one with the audio. If you don't get the audio, you're not going to get the listening input, which you absolutely need. So yeah, you can go and try that out yourself. Finding resources, that's another thing. It might be a bit difficult, simply because overall, it's hard for yourself to know, being a new French learner, not having learned French to success before, you don't know the exact things you need to be doing daily. And that's where I come in handy with my students, and they're liking that. So now we're intermediate reading and listening level. Now it's leveling it up. So step 3, Netflix and YouTube, or any other video platform. So here, keeping in mind, if we look back up, resource here, step 1, step 2, we're dealing with resources that are built for French learners, okay? So the audio, the writing of it, it's all being built and created by French people, with the goal of helping you, a French learner, learn French, okay? Get from beginning to intermediate. But now, Netflix and YouTube videos, it's often, resources that are built for French people. So it can be very hard to find good Netflix shows, movies, and YouTube videos which are at your level and which you enjoy as well. Okay. So this is where, finding those key videos that you choose, that you enjoy, is key, because we're looking to bring in some flexibility here where you don't even think you're studying French. You're just simply enjoying the language. For example, at the moment, you might be watching videos on YouTube on other subjects. For example, you might like food and wine. You might like traveling. You might like history, geography, cars, fashion, anything, the weather, absolutely anything you enjoy. And if you're learning that in English, learn it in French. If you're watching a video on the 10 best destinations or best places to go to in Paris, or the best places to go to on your next travel trip in Asia, doesn't matter what subject we're talking about, you can simply watch that video in French, because every video you've looked up ever online in English, there's an equivalent in French, okay? There's just as many French videos as there are English ones. So that's exactly what you'd be doing here with me. You're going through and you're basically, you're looking for the TV shows, for the movies, for the YouTube videos, for other videos that you would really enjoy. And here the key is understanding real French without the English subtitles, okay? Without having the English translation there all the time. Here, you will basically be doing the Assimil book, where you've got the French on one side of the page, you've got the audio, but then we're dropping the English translation. So then we're just dealing with the French. The reason we do this, and it's something where I see lots of people, they'll start trying to learn French online or any other language, and they'll watch YouTube videos or Netflix, but they'll put on English subtitles. And, I just wonder why, because if you want to learn French, well, you should be putting on French subtitles, simply because you're now getting the reading and the listening. You turn on the subtitles instantly, you read them, that's reading, okay? Because you're already listening to it. So it's reading and listening at the same time, just like I was saying before with the Asimil book. And to this effect, if you're doing that and you can understand 60, 70, 80% of what you're reading and listening on Netflix, on YouTube, that is perfect. And this is where, within, 3 to 6 months of doing this with Netflix and YouTube, you're going to build an advanced reading and listening level like 100%. If you're doing this every day and you're doing it properly, absolutely. And so here, the next part, because we're getting ready to speak French. We do this. All right, so let's say, ideally, you do really well with the Asimil and the other resources. You head through, okay, and then you've done 3 to 6 months of that. You complete the Asimil book, you got other resources you're enjoying. You transition here into the second stage where you're going from intermediate to advanced. And then you go, okay, Netflix and YouTube time, right? You start watching that. And then within 1 to 2 months, usually, from what I've found with my students, you're then going to be ready to speak French. So that's why we're getting ready to speak French with this, because this is real French, right? We're sort of out in the wild, right? When you're using the Asimil book and other resources that are really easy and they build up to intermediate, it's basically getting you ready for the real French, right? We don't want to send you out to the wild right away. When you're, say, 1 or 2 months old, that's not going to work well for you, okay? You get hunted. But once you've built up that intermediate level and you're here, well, now you're strong enough and you've got the knowledge base to be able to head out and watch Netflix and YouTube. And now you can start speaking. So that's step 4. You start speaking French. Because your reading and listening level is a strong intermediate level, it basically means that when you're speaking French, you know the accent. You know the pronunciation of phrases, of words. You don't think about grammar rules when you speak. You speak naturally, because when you speak, you're simply putting to words exactly what you've listened to and read hundreds of times, thousands of times, because for the 3 to 6 months prior, you've done reading and listening every single day. You've done that so then you can prepare yourself to speak naturally. When I learned French, I didn't speak for the first 5, 6 months. It worked well. My accent, it's pretty good. I'm very happy with it. And it's something where I don't see why you'd speak from day one. You don't know much French yet. Don't force it. Allow it to come naturally. If you trust the process of doing the Asimil book, building up your reading and listening, other podcasts, cartoons, short stories, simple videos, and then finally more advanced videos here with Netflix and YouTube. You do that for, 6 months, and then you start speaking. You'll see. It comes naturally. My students are seeing it now. And it's something where, it's almost like you have to put your faith in something, right, in order to get it done. And if you're putting your faith in Duolingo, you're going to have a hard time. If you're putting your faith in a French tutor, from what I've seen, you're going to have a hard time. The busy professional I was just talking to you about before, the one with the young family who can't spend 60 minutes a day learning French, usually 20 to 40. He previously had a French tutor, wasn't working. He was using italki. He had this tutor. They were forcing him to speak French, start of each lesson. He doesn't know French. Completely embarrassed him. He hated it. And then he just dread, being on the calls with this guy, because this teacher, okay, he was French. He'd never learned English, pardon me. He'd never learned French before from English, just like my current student needs to. So this teacher did not understand that speaking French right away, when you don't even know how to read and listen good, that is absolute torture, okay? It's not the tutor's fault, but all I'm saying is it wasn't helpful at all. And that's where I know. I didn't want to speak French from day one because I didn't know what the hell was going on, right? I didn't know what French sentences even looked like. I didn't know how to read a simple French sentence. So why would I start speaking? I'll start speaking once I learn how to read and listen first. And then I'm going to have confidence. And with that, you can really build up your level much faster than someone who starts from day one. Like, yes, okay, if they start from day one, they're going to be speaking for longer than you. They're going to already have tried to speak for 4 or 5 months, but their intonations are going to be bad. The tones are going to be bad. They're not allowing the French to come to them naturally. They're going to force themselves to speak sentences. Don't force yourself. Allow it to come naturally. Once you do good reading and listening, you start speaking every day here. Firstly, okay, this is good, okay? Read out loud, number 1. That's what you do. You go back to the Asimil book and you read out loud these chapters you did at the start. that are a beginner level of reading and listening. You've mastered these chapters by now. So now simply speak them out loud. Listen to the audio, take the audio out once you've listened to the full sentence, full chapter, and then simply copy the native speaker. Imitate. Because if you think, whichever country you're from, for example, say you're from the USA, okay, you're from California or Los Angeles. Do you know any babies in Los Angeles who have grown up with a French accent speaking English? No, unless their parents were French. If the parents are American, then the baby is going to have an American accent. Same thing with French. You all want to get a good French accent, right? Well, keep it very simple. Copy the French accent. Copy how French people speak French. It's exactly what I did. You simply read out loud the chapters, okay? You're copying the native speakers. And then secondly, you're learning to create your own conversations. This could be brushing your teeth, getting up in the morning, getting changed, getting ready for work, doing things at work, talking with your family, studying certain things, learning about whatever you want, creating your own conversations, okay? And no, it's not crazy to do so, don't worry. I used to speak by myself and, read out loud and, parents would hear me or something, or, brother would come in and say, what the hell are you doing? I'm learning French, right? And thirdly, speaking with natives. So this is where you're not going to be scared to speak with them because you've already done speaking for 3 to 6 months, okay? And now you can go out and speak with them. You don't have to speak with them right away. Speak once you're comfortable. And overall, that'll result in an advanced fluent level if you do it properly and you're seriously committed to getting it done within 12 to 18 months. That's going to depend on the timeline. It's going to depend on, exactly say how well you go, using this method, and say, your attitude as well. If you have a really strong reason for learning French, the chances you learn French are astronomically higher. If you're not really sure if you want to learn, or you sort of do, but some days you don't, well, that means you're not going to do the daily work in this 3 to 6 months to get the lessons in, to get the reading and listening level up from beginner to intermediate. And if you don't do that, it's going to be very hard for you to ever get to advanced or fluent level, just to be honest, right? That's why most people don't learn French because, one, they don't have a good plan like this. Two, they don't have a real reason for learning French. It's not important to them. What's your reason for learning French? It's an important question. And three, they don't have the confidence they can do it because people around them, they don't have people around them or with them helping them who have learned French before to fluency. And yeah, that's the 4 steps really. So that's as simple as I can give it to you, really. That's the step-by-step plan that I used exactly. It's the one my students are using. They're doing really well with it. And I thought it'd be helpful for you. You can go and implement this yourself, really. And yeah, best of luck with that. If any of you would thinking that you want my help to learn French with me, team up really one-on-one. I don't work with everyone, but if I think you'd be a good fit based on where you currently are with French, what you're looking to achieve, and how much time you're looking to put in each day, it'd be good to have a chat with you if you'd like. You can book a call in the description there. There's just a link. You can book that in, and then we can have a chat, and I'll simply see if you would be a good fit. As I said, I can't work with everyone just simply due to time constraints. I've got 7 now. I can't help the world, unfortunately, but I do these videos for free so you can see everything and learn from here at least. So I hope this video was useful, and yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you.